Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time. Visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. The 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina has a very competitive runoff primary election tomorrow between first-time political candidate Lieutenant Colonel Sheri Biggs, who is endorsed by South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, and Pastor Mark Burns, who promotes himself as Donald Trump's pastor and the Trump-endorsed candidate for the district that longtime Representative Jeff Duncan chose not to seek re-election in. I spent some time with both candidates, and we'll share that with you a little later in today's episode. First, let's do a quick rundown of today's headlines. The Trump campaign says a recent fact-check report debunking the claim that then-President Trump spoke favorably of neo-Nazis in 2017 shows that President Biden and his campaign had promoted a lie and called on them to not promote the hoax again. Left-leaning fact-checking website Snopes published a piece Saturday debunking claims promoted by President Biden and some members of the media that following the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, this was back in 2017, that Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people. Biden has repeatedly cited the false claim, even saying it was the impetus for his 2020 White House run against Donald Trump. Trump campaign National Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told Fox News Digital on Sunday that the Snopes fact check shows Biden and other corrupt Democrats promoted a lie and a hoax. Snopes detailed in its fact check that Trump was clear he was not calling neo-Nazis fine people when he made the comment at a press conference that year. What do you think the odds are that this is going to stop Joe Biden from repeating this lie? Joe Biden probably really believes it's true. He can't remember from day to day that it's not a lie. Police tackled protesters on the 18th green at the TPC River Highlands during the final hole of the Traverse Championship yesterday. Scotty Scheffler was on the 18th green looking for the victory when multiple protesters rushed onto the course in Cromwell, Connecticut. The protesters let off gas canisters as police sprinted to apprehend them. Golf fans rained booze on the protesters as others yelled profanities and disapproval as authorities tried to get the protesters off the green as fast as possible. Some of the protesters wore T-shirts with the extinction symbol on the back, which is a circle representing the planet and a stylized hourglass that represents running out of time. The T-shirts also read, "No golf on a dead planet," pointing to these protesters being climate change activists. The protest couldn't have come at a more crucial time in the tournament, as Tom Kim needed a birdie to force a playoff against Scheffler, who parred the 18th hole once play resumed. He would do just that, finishing 18 holes with a 66 after Scheffler posted a 65 on the day. This isn't the first time we've seen protesters rush a field in sports. Climate activists have been spotted at NFL games in the past, and others have tried gluing their hands to the court at NBA contests. While the tournament went on, all the protesters were handcuffed and brought off the grounds by authorities. Kim forced the playoff, but Scheffler parred the 18th hole again to win it after Kim wasn't able to match him. This is Scheffler's 6th win of the season and the 2nd playoff victory of his career. His win also comes 2 days after he turned 28 years old. As we get closer to the CNN presidential debate on Thursday, both President Biden and former President Donald Trump are now preparing to take the stage, but in a very different fashion. Biden is prepping at Camp David, while Trump hit the campaign trail in Philadelphia over the weekend. Fox News correspondent Alexis McAdams caught up with Trump before his rally to find out how he is getting ready. Trump said, "Well, this is really the best strategy right here. We have all these people out here, and they're screaming questions. I look forward to the debate." Trump asked the crowd during his rally at Temple University what his approach should be on stage.
Should I be tough and nasty and just say you're the worst president in history, or should I be nice and calm and let him speak?
Trump told Fox News that he's not worried about Biden's debate preparations and feels very confident in his own ability, saying, well, I think if he prepares, he'll be fine. Then he'll forget it within an hour after preparing. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, he said. The former president's on a swing state tour, recently hitting Michigan, Wisconsin. He was down in Georgia, Pennsylvania, a list of states that Trump won back in 2016 but lost in 2020. According to recent polls, Trump's doing better in those states this time around, gaining support with young and non-white voters who say that they're upset with Biden's handling of the economy and Gaza. According to the recent Marist College poll, Trump is leading Biden by 2 points in Pennsylvania, a key state on the road to the White House. Trump told Fox he could be anywhere, but is choosing to stop in urban areas, including a cheesesteak shop in South Philly. He said it's not a game plan, it's just that there's a lot of love. You know, they want hope. There's no hope with this guy. Biden is the worst president we've ever had. There's no hope. I'm saying the people need hope. Some voters waited for hours outside of the rally in record heat. Many said they wanted to hear more about the former president's plan to fix the border, on crime and inflation. This, as a recent Fox News poll found, 32% of voters say the economy is in excellent or good shape. It's the highest approval rating on the topic so far during Biden's presidency, which I don't understand, don't get it, don't know how anyone could think that this is a good economy, though the sentiment seems to be negative when you talk with voters. One voter in Philadelphia said, I need to make money to feed my family. I used to pay $200 a week for groceries. Now I pay $450 a week. I'm not even making that anymore, so it's killing me. So far, Trump has not announced a vice presidential pick, but said that he does know who he will choose. He's made the decision, according to Trump. NBC's Dasha Burns reported on the Sunday Today show that Trump has said he'll have his vice president with him at Thursday's debate.
Local Philly restaurant to promote his proposed policy to eliminate taxes on tips. And he talked about his much anticipated VP pick, saying he's made his choice, but hasn't told anyone else, but that his yet to be named running mate will be in Atlanta this Thursday at the debate. Sources tell NBC News that the focus has narrowed to three top contenders: North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, all of whom have criticized the former president in the past, but have become loyal allies. The decision should come sometime in the next 3 weeks.
After Thursday's debate, both candidates plan to stay in the South. Biden is said to be stopping in North Carolina, a state that he lost to Trump in 2020. Trump will head to a rally in Virginia. It's been 2 decades since a Republican carried the Commonwealth state in the race for the White House. The former president plans to change that, he said. If you live in the Carolinas, please plan to join me along with my new radio family, Tara Servatius, Bill Frady, Charlie James, and the legend Bobby Mack, who did afternoons for years on my new radio home at News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. We welcome you to join us at Willie Tacos on Lawrence Road in Greenville, where we'll have a fun debate watch party along with the 4th District Republican Club and Young Greenville. It all begins at 8 p.m. Hope to see you there.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. On the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome, as are your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com. Texter says, hey, Joey, Sheri from Elberton. I wanted to say replacing the president is top priority, but everyone also needs to be certain to vote in every election available to them in their community. We need to replace all the crooked people who do not follow the Constitution or stand for law and order and make people accountable for their actions. One more thing. I have a hunch that CNN will give Biden all the questions for the debate so he can be prepared. Plus, Biden will be extremely medicated, so he will function as well as possible. We'll see. It's going to be a fun evening. It's going to be an interesting time to see just how Joe Biden can stand there for an hour and a half and field question after question. Texter Tony says, Joey, I just started tonight writing on receipts, vote Trump, no taxes on tips. Good for you, Tony. We all need to be doing that. Write on your receipt, vote Trump, no taxes on tips. Anytime you're out having dinner with the family, be sure and leave that message behind. Scott writes, I've been giving a lot of thought about the Ten Commandments law in Louisiana. I'm mixed on it. As a Christian, I'm 100% in agreement of it, but the effect of unintended consequences must be considered. Scott goes on to say, are we going to be okay with a copy of Sharia law in the class right next to the Ten Commandments, or how about prayer mats for every student? Or maybe a Buddha statue placed in the entrance? I'm afraid that this will open doors that need to be kept closed. It's probably a valid concern, Scott, because back in the day when the Ten Commandments were in our classrooms, when I remember my fifth grade class, my teacher was Miss Scipio, and she played the Lord's Prayer and the National Anthem every morning. But, we didn't have all these other things distracting us. Nobody would have ever even thought about having Buddha in the corner or having a copy of the Sharia law. We didn't even know what the Sharia law was at the time. It's probably a good concern, Scott. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Texter says, hey, Joey, Jennifer, regarding the Democrats and the mainstream media's new made-up name, Cheap Fakes. It refers to video after video of Biden's rapid mental decline, and it's just another entry into their playbook called How to Persuade American Voters to Not Believe Their Lying Eyes. And number two, she says quickly, yes, stop U.S. presidents from running the government on their executive orders. And number three, thank you, Jennifer, finally, hurrah for Louisiana. How did they do it? I'm loving it that all over America, people are finally standing up. Wonder how Louisiana schools might change with young people reading the Ten Commandments on the walls instead of the age-inappropriate books in the libraries. Good questions. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, as always, 864-477-JOEY. Emails joey@joeyhudson.com. Up next, Sheri Biggs and Pastor Mark Burns is facing off in the 3rd Congressional District runoff. If you live in upstate South Carolina in the 3rd District, plan to vote tomorrow. Polls open at 7 a.m. I spent some time with both candidates, and you need to hear them both before making your final decision. Pastor Mark Burns up next. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. I realize that there are a lot of headlines out there, but one of the things that I've been getting text messages and emails on is, what do we do in the 3rd Congressional District, as that primary is tomorrow? It's a runoff between Sheri Biggs, a lieutenant colonel, first-time political candidate, and Pastor Mark Burns. He is the Trump-endorsed candidate. He ran in the 4th Congressional District a couple of years ago, now trying to seek the 3rd Congressional District GOP nomination. So for the rest of this hour, we're going to talk to both of these candidates, and we're going to start first with Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor Burns, good morning. Welcome in.
So happy to be here, Joey. Great to be here.
Let's jump right in. In the televised debate, the issue of residency came up. You don't believe Ms. Biggs has lived in South Carolina long enough, and Ms. Biggs is questioning whether you even live in District 3. So two-part question for you. Do you believe it matters to voters how long a candidate has lived in the district? And second, where do you live? What is your response to the ad that Ms. Biggs' campaign is running that shows a boarded up building, which they say is zoned commercial and that you would not be allowed to live there. Is this where you're registered to vote? Where do you live, Pastor Burns? Are you a resident of the 3rd Congressional District in which you're seeking to represent?
Well, first of all, I do think it's important to voters when there's a contrast between two potential elected officials regarding where they grew up and how much roots do they have in a particular area that they are aiming and aspiring to represent. Again, in order to serve a community, you must relate to that community. In order to serve a district, you must relate to the citizens of that district. And if you're not from a particular community or district, it's hard for you to relate to all people. And so I think it's a big issue amongst voters, hence why the question about my residency is even a question to some people, and they want to have that, rightfully so. Again, I most definitely live in the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina. I live in Easley, South Carolina. That boarded up building that you have, unfortunately, unlike my opponent, Sheri, I don't live in $1 million house on the Keys somewhere in Kiwi Key, and I don't have another $1 million house in Mississippi. I've been building a new IT company for the last 3 years, building this business from the ground up. I already have a TV network, but in building this business, I've lived in an apartment that's attached to my facility. That boarded up wall is a construction that the renovations that is happening inside of the studio there. But there's an apartment that is attached in the back that I've been there for several years in that same facility while building a business. And it's not uncommon for leaders or for business owners, small business owners, to live in the facility that they work in. So my neighbors all know, can testify to this, that I've been there for several years. I mean, all they've done is showed a boarded up wall that they had to put in a massive beam. We raised the ceiling in that particular front area that church and the TV studio will be housed in. And so open up one of the windows, break it down essentially, to allow a massive metal beam that took a long time for them to construct to pass code with the city. And so that's what they saw. The construction is ongoing. But I've been there for several years. Yeah.
So the home that she has pictured in the ad that is running, that is your home then. And one final question before we move on from this. Ms. Biggs also says that you changed your registration just days before you filed to run. Is that true as well?
Well, to be honest with you, when the registration was changed, there was I had been living, as you know, prior to that in Greenville. And for those who don't know, I went through a divorce. And let me just share that. I went through a divorce. And in this divorce, I moved to Greenville. I had been living in Easley for, 15 years in the same residency, raised my children in there. My children have all been a part of the Pickens County school system. And my church is in Easley. And so but after my divorce, after my children were grown, my wife and I decided that we were no longer, were to be married. And so when I went through that transition, I moved to Greenville in that time period. And hence that's when I ran in the 4th Congressional District. I moved in with one of my children and lived, had took residency there. And stayed there for a while until I transitioned back to the 3rd Congressional District, and I had lived there several years. But like a lot of people, my registration was still in Greenville. And so, but I had already been back in the 3rd Congressional District, which, again, that's where I've been born, raised, and have roots here my whole entire 44-year life, with the exception of the brief time that I was in the Greenville County. I have always been in the 3rd Congressional District. So it's kind of laughable to question for people who actually know me and the people that are with me for all these years whether or not I live in the 3rd Congressional District.
Okay. Well, and that's I just wanted our listeners to hear that explanation because
sure.
It has been, the question has been raised. All right, let's move on. This is, if elected, this would be the first public office that you've served in. Talk about your previous work experience and what qualifies you to serve in the United States Congress.
Well, I consider being a pastor a very public servant. I understand this is the first elected office that I've had, but not
maybe I should have used the word elected, because you're right. Being a pastor is a public service. So, elected public office. There you go. Right. And I think, as I stated at the debate, we've lost the servant leadership aspect of in politics. One of the greatest components that I have is a very public service to our community as a servant leader. And I've been very consistent in doing so. Of course, my business background, have built 2 businesses in Pickens County and employed people. My ability to know policy because of my very strong relationship with President Donald Trump. The president doesn't just endorse people that he knows. He endorses qualified people. And I sometimes think people fail to understand the political genius of Donald Trump. He is very wise. He is not just and only the never Trumpers don't take his endorsement very seriously. But those who know him and those who believe in his plan and his policy know that in order to get an endorsement, you need to be a qualified individual. And he and his team go through a deep vetting process to those that he is going to attach his name to. And so policy-wise, I've been very astute and educated in policy. I think you saw my opponent had her notebook and a notepad in front of her reading notes and not really being able to answer policy questions, but to essentially attack me with lies and fabrications like I voted for Bill Clinton when I was too young to vote for Bill Clinton. He was elected in 1996. I was 17 years old in 1996, but yet they got it running their ads, and I think it's probably about to be pulled down or already pulled down because of this blatant lies. They said that I admitted to not serving in the military when I absolutely served in the South Carolina Army National Guard, but yet they perpetuating that lie just like CNN did 8-9 years ago. These are the things that they keep perpetuating. Would it be lies? They say I don't live in the 3rd Congressional District. My neighbors who stay beside me very much know that I have an apartment behind my facility and been here for several years, and very visible in my small community here in Easley. And yet they are essentially using dirty politics, and I think people are really tired of it. Again, all of her hit jobs and attack ads are coming from outside anti-Second Amendment Bloomberg money, and now we see once we expose the Bloomberg money pack, money coming from Democrats. Remember, she and her husband donated to Jim Clyburn and to Chuck Schumer. They now change PACs to another PAC that's backed by never Trumpers. You're talking about the same people that was behind funding the Russia delusion collusion dossier. Is the same people now that are funneling money to attack acts against Trumpers, those who are endorsed by Trump, and those who most likely will be members of the Freedom Caucus. NBC News did a story on it. Breitbart News did a story on it. So it's very well documented. This is not hearsay. And these are the people that are backing Sheri Biggs. And so you got to ask yourself, why are these Democrats and these never Trumpers backing Sheri Biggs? Well, it's because this is how they make a play in very deep red districts like the 3rd Congressional District. They know that a Democrat cannot win this district, but so they will find a moderate or a weak Republican and funnel money to their accounts to try to sabotage the voters and sway them to vote for their candidate that will not be a strong conservative, that don't have the endorsement of the current leader of the Republican Party. And so this is exactly how they make a play. But yet I think these citizens of the 3rd Congressional District are not fooled by it. I mean, we're reading in the comments, and the polls are showing very favorably. People are not listening to those attack ads.
because it's becoming white noise.
Yeah.
I am a very public person for the last 8 years. Public, strong support. They want to use, I voted for Obama twice, like that was a political decision. First of all, I told the media that I voted for Barack Obama 2 years ago, twice. I told the media back in 2015 when I was traveling around the nation speaking on the behalf of of Donald Trump and introducing him on stage, and spoke at the Republican National Convention in 2016. This is not some got you question, some secret that they exposed. No, this is very public knowledge, and that's kind of what we praise Donald Trump for. I mean, again, the fact that 7% of Black Americans were voting for Barack Obama in 2016. Now we're at 22% of the entire Black community. That is unheard of numbers since Richard Nixon. Go back and look it up. This is why I call Donald Trump the blackest president in our lifetime, because of the policies that he's pushed and the policies that he's pushing forward to help make America great for all Americans.
Sure.
And so the reality of it is this. The majority of my community, 96% during that time voted for the first Black man to ever be nominated by a major party. Had Barack Obama been a Republican, 95 to 96% of Black Americans would have still voted for Barack Obama. Had nothing to do with policy for the most part. But thank God for Donald Trump.
Yep.
Because just like a third of the current Republican Party, those who are part of the Republican Party now are only members simply because of Donald Trump.
Yep.
And in the church, Joey, we call that a convert is a win for us. So
yes, I get
we
that.
want to convert as many people
yes,
to come.
On our guest line today, Pastor Mark Burns, candidate for District 3, and you got to go to the polls tomorrow, as this is the runoff election, and it's very important that you show up. Let's talk for a minute about some important issues here. First off, another poll just this past week showed that the biggest issue on the minds of Americans is our broken southern border. We just have a few minutes left today. We just don't have enough time on radio to get to all these things. But how would you fix the southern border, Pastor, and give some specific details on what you would do?
Well, being the only Trump-endorsed candidate, I will follow the president's plan. Number one, we got to finish the border wall, right? Number two, we got to deal and revisit the asylum laws that are being abused right now. We don't need to be dealing with immigration issues at the border. If they show up at the border, and they don't have the proper documentation to enter our nation, we need to send them back to the country they come from. Number three, we need to pull every welfare and every entitlement programs that have been issued to non-citizens. We need to pull that funding immediately. No more cell phones. No more housing, no more medical care. These things should be for citizens of the United States of America. And then number four, we need to deport anyone that are non-citizens of this nation, starting with the violent criminals, those that have committed crimes. President Trump has already stated this. And so that is, that is because of time, we don't have enough time to go into more detail, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Support President Trump's plan to do that.
Yeah. The Congressional Budget Office announced this past week that they had missed the projected deficit spending by $400 billion for this fiscal year. How do we stop the runaway federal spending, and do you believe it's realistic to think that we can, again, balance the budget? And give us an example of a specific program that you would be in favor of cutting.
Well, number one, I think we should cut the Department of Education. I really think that program is a bureaucracy, infested program that dangles a carrot in front of our students here in the South Carolinas, particularly the 3rd Congressional District. I mean, we should not be pushing any sexual oriented or LGBT or any social programs like critical race theory amongst our children. And as long as the federal government controls the money, they have a hand and a foothold on what our schools are teaching here in South Carolina. The money should come specifically to the state, not the federal government. So like Ronald Reagan, who ran on this very same thing, eliminate the federal Department of Education, put the money back into the hands of the states, and gives parents more control over what their children are learning. It is the Congress' constitutional obligation to balance the budget. And it shouldn't be that complicated. Our overspending is destroying our nation. Two issues that are destroying our economy is our overspending and and energy. Yes. And so we got to roll back Joe Biden's Green New Deal, drill baby drill, and roll back the Green New Deal, and open up every natural resource, open up the Keystone Pipeline, and that lowers the cost of living for our citizens here. That lowers the cost of energy. That lowers the cost of seed and the cost of products. It ultimately helps the citizens live better because groceries is at all-time high, inflation is at all-time high, and so these are the things that have to happen for our nation. Yep.
Pastor Mark Burns, I appreciate your time. Again, tomorrow is Election Day for this runoff in the 3rd Congressional District. Good luck to you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Everybody get out and vote Mark Burns for U.S. Congress.
Yep. Up next, the other name you'll see on the ballot in tomorrow's GOP primary runoff in the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina is Lieutenant Colonel Sheri Biggs. We're going to spend some time with her coming up next. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. On our guest line from the 3rd Congressional District, as we will head back to the polls tomorrow, Sheri Biggs, one of the two candidates who made it to the runoff along with Pastor Mark Burns. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
So let's just jump right in here. Last week, you were part of a debate that was televised here locally, and the issue of residency came up. Mr. Burns doesn't believe that you have lived in South Carolina long enough, and you're questioning whether he even lives in District 3. This is a two-part question. Number one, what do you say to voters who do question your loyalty to South Carolina, having not lived here your entire life? Those of us who have, we like to say born and raised. And second, based on what you know, where do you think Mr. Burns lives?
Well, thank you for the question and the opportunity to clear that up. I did move to and married my husband in 2017 and moved to South Carolina. I was born in Mississippi. I didn't have a lot of input in that. That's where my parents were, and I grew up in Mississippi. And but now I live in South Carolina. I love South Carolina. I contribute in my community, and I plan on dying in South Carolina. I can promise you that. I have talked to a lot of voters in this district, and they don't really seem concerned where I've moved from. I know a lot of people have come to South Carolina, especially after COVID. It's beautiful, and I don't know why people wouldn't want to live here. And I think another thing about South Carolina is the patriotism and the love just for our state and our country. Our people are absolutely second to none here. But, talking about my opponent, I also hear things about Mr. Burns. I think many people are aware that he has been a bit, for lack of a better term, deceitful about his residency. I mean, you can check the records. We did, and just days before he filed, he actually changed his residency. And after looking into that, the address where he claims to live is actually zoned as a commercial property. That's where his televangelism network is supposed to be, I think a school. And it even has a parking space with reserved for pastor out front. So, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Mark Burns needs to start being honest. So I absolutely don't know where he lives. Maybe that's a good question for him.
Yeah. Well, if I have the opportunity, I'm certainly going to ask that for sure. This is a pretty ambitious step to run for the U.S. House with no political experience. Talk about your background. It's in healthcare, as I understand, and why do you think, or how do you think that has prepared you to serve in Congress?
Well, I think being a political outsider gives me a fresh perspective. I mean, look at President Trump. He had no political experience prior to stepping into his position. And I think my background, although it is a little interesting and diverse, I think it helps me. So in healthcare, I see the struggles that people are going through. Not only do I have my doctorate as a family practitioner, but I'm also a psychiatric mental health practitioner. So I go into situations and I have to triage and, hit the most important topics first and address the major issues. And that's exactly what I would do in Washington. And my background in the military as a lieutenant colonel, I run the medical crew in the back of a plane in a combat zone. So I have to make good decisions that impact lives. I have to make them quickly, and I have to make them independently. And I have people counting on me. And I work with a diverse group of people from all different backgrounds all over. And, I have to earn their respect, and I have to lead them. And the bottom line is we have to accomplish the mission at hand. There are no options. So I think that makes me the best candidate.
Yep. Let's talk about campaign finance. It takes a lot of money to run a congressional campaign. Again, citing last week's televised debate, Mr. Burns talked about an article in Breitbart that says you're a, quote, anti-Second Amendment, gun-grabbing Michael Bloomberg candidate. Now, you responded that evening that you do not know who Michael Bloomberg is. You do know who he is, right?
I know who he is,
yeah,
but I don't know him personally.
Why do you think he supports your campaign? And has he? I mean, first of all, I guess my first question should be, has his organization contributed to your campaign?
So talking about the Second Amendment, and I'm glad you're giving me an opportunity because I want to be very clear on this because this is important to my district. I know what my district wants, and I know what they're looking for to represent them in Washington. And I want to be very transparent because I honestly don't believe my opponent is being truthful and upfront. So as I just mentioned, I've served in combat zones, and I've served our nation with many others long before me to defend our freedoms, and that includes our Second Amendment rights. So I've earned an A rating from the NRA and the Gun Owners of America. And you and I have talked about this before, but even my dogs are named. I have a 8-year-old lab who's named Remy, and I have a 2-year-old shepherd named Sig. I mean, they're named after guns, and you won't find a better friend to the Second Amendment than Sheri Biggs. So that being said, a lot of groups have gotten involved in this race. I mean, including a dark money group that's been spending hundreds of thousands to prop up my opponent. So I don't know what my opponent does, but I can tell you, as far as Sheri Biggs, the people that have gotten into this race outside groups, I don't have any communication with them. I think the group, from what the best I can tell and talking what we've looked into with my team, is that that this is a group that supports veterans. They try to elect veterans to Congress. Now, I don't know who their donors are. I don't know who has put money into that group, but that's what my team has found out, is that it is a group supporting veterans. So it wouldn't surprise me that a group that wanted to elect veterans to Congress would get behind me, because I have a proven military record as a leader. I haven't lied, and I have a lot of veterans in this group, in this district, that have gotten behind me to support my candidacy. I mean, just as you would expect, endorsing my campaign.
Yep. As you mentioned, there has been a lot of dark money spent not only in your campaign in this third congressional race, but other races that we've seen, and even at the more local level, the South Carolina State House races and State Senate races. As a member of Congress, would you vote to ban dark money from campaigns?
Well, I don't know. That is a good question. I will add one more thing. We have been very forthcoming and have filed and complied with submitting our financial disclosures. So I think that's an important piece to make sure that the voters know that. You can look up any of the contributions that were made in my campaign. Everything has been submitted legally and available for reference. And I don't think my opponent can say that. He's already violated the House ethics rules before he even gets there, because he has not provided his financial disclosures.
Mm-hmm. Well, would you vote to ban dark money, though?
I think that's something that should be considered. I don't know if I have a direct answer for that right now. I think it is. We have to kind of look back at our First Amendment, and
so you might consider this a First Amendment issue, and that if these groups want to spend money supporting candidates, then that's certainly their right.
But I do think that the voters should have access to information and have a clear and transparent view of what's going on.
Sure. Let's move on to some of the important issues. Another poll this week showed that the biggest issue on the minds of Americans is our broken southern border. How would you fix it? And give us specific details on how you would do so.
Yeah, so this has been a priority of mine since I started the campaign. I think from my perspective as a member of the military, I can see clearly the dangers that it poses to not only people in the 3rd District and our state of South Carolina and our nation as a whole. I have always supported President Trump. I have never voted Democrat, but I think right now we have to really look at what's being allowed by Biden administration and see things for what they are. We definitely need to get President Trump back in the driver's seat and get that border closed immediately. And I would be the person to work with President Trump. We have got to stop the flow of illegal aliens and most definitely replace the catch and release with a stop and deport. That has to happen. They're bringing known terrorists into our country. We have drug dealers, just hard criminals, and they're killing our children with fentanyl and draining our economy. It's really increasing inflation and causing a hardship for us.
Yep.
And the security issue is the main issue.
Yep.
The sovereignty of our nation is at hand, and we have to do something yesterday.
Yep.
We should have done something.
Yeah, I mean, we have no idea who's in our country right now and what they're doing. I don't know that they came here necessarily to help us. The Congressional Budget Office announced last week that they had missed the projected deficit spending for this fiscal year by $400 billion. How do we stop this runaway federal spending? And is it realistic to think that we can, again, balance the budget? And again, I want you to be specific. Is there what program within the federal government right now would you cut in order to save money?
Well, in the district, the economy is one of the most critical issues. People are having trouble making ends meet. And as a mother, this is scary. It's scary for me. It should be scary for any family. I heard something yesterday. I think it was like 46% of people are struggling with the amount of income, that they have coming in, just making ends meet. That's a huge, huge number. They can't even live the same way. And I think, as you said, the Biden administration and career politicians, they are just excessively and wastefully spending, and the inflation is killing us. So we do have to fight for fiscal responsibility. I think a lot of the programs we need to completely overhaul. And, I think you and I have talked about this before. We need to look at everything from top to the bottom. But I think right now, stop the wasteful spending, be held accountable and transparent for the spending. We just can't send millions of dollars to other countries. We should, as taxpayers, we should know what that is for. But I think probably the education department would be high on my list to start with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mr. Burns has been endorsed by President Trump. You have been endorsed by Governor Henry McMaster. Why did the governor endorse you?
Well, I think the governor knows what kind of person I am. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of Governor McMaster. He knows about my faith. He knows what I stand for. He's aware of my military service. He's also worn the uniform. He knows that I have integrity. He knows about my family values, and he knows about my commitment and that I would most definitely support President Trump. And Governor McMaster has been from day one a huge supporter of President Trump as well. So I think all those things absolutely make me the right candidate for the job. The governor knows what I will do when I get into Washington.
Yep. Take a moment to, and this has been a pretty fierce competition from day one when there were 7 candidates, and particularly in this runoff in the past couple of weeks. Take a minute and talk with voters about why you think Sheri Biggs is the better choice to represent them in Washington.
Well, I believe that the people in the 3rd Congressional District, they want a leader that they can trust. And I have proven myself. I mean, I've been up front from day one. When I get out and talk with voters, they connect with me. I'm a real person. I'm a mother. I know what it's like to work 2 and 3 jobs. And, my opponent, he's done nothing but use lies and deception to give himself a platform. And I'm completely the opposite of that. I've talked about my faith. My faith is what guides me. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I can tell you that I will be held accountable, and I will do everything I can to represent this district with dignity. And you won't find a person who will fight harder for our conservative beliefs than Sheri Biggs.
Yep. One final thing, as mentioned before, this is your first run for office, and I think you probably would admit it's been a pretty tough campaign. Did you expect this, and would you run again?
Absolutely, I would run again. I don't know what Tuesday is going to bring, but I've worked very hard, and I think the voters, they have seen that. I'm invested in this race. And however it turns out, I have made great relationships talking with the people. I found that each county represented in this district, it offers something significant. And I'm lucky to live in this district. I'm honored to have met so many people. And more than that they have gotten behind me and absolutely supported me. It means the world. I think the voters should be asking who they can trust in this race and who has integrity to stand with President Trump. And as a lieutenant colonel, a political outsider, a mother, as I described, as a mental health professional, I think voters can relate to me. We definitely don't need a scandal-driven televangelist who doesn't seem to do anything but get in trouble at every turn. So I think there's a stark difference.
Yep.
And I'm glad that I've earned the trust of so many of our voters.
Yep. Sheri Biggs, thank you for your time today. And, of course, tomorrow it's in the voters' hands. I would say good luck to you.
Thank you. We really need everyone to get out and vote. This is an important race. And thank you for those of you who have supported me. I appreciate you for having me on.
Sure thing. Appreciate your time. One final reminder, if you live in the 3rd Congressional District of South Carolina, tomorrow polls open at 7 a.m. through 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. You have to make a choice between Pastor Mark Burns, Lieutenant Colonel Sheri Biggs. This is an important race. If you miss part of today's podcast, go back and listen. And if you have friends and family who just aren't quite sure who to vote for, forward today's edition of Just the Truth to them and ask them to listen. Because, again, this is an important race. They need to know the facts. They need to hear this for themselves before they walk into that polling place tomorrow and make that decision. So, please, hit the share button right now. Send it to people on your contact list who you know live in the 3rd Congressional District. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and we're going to win in the June primaries, and if we're going to win in November especially, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey at joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece